Today we're called to put away some of our customary shyness about who we are as Christians in Episcopalian sense. Really let our light shine. The lessons that we have for Pentecost are, of course, part of a larger story. And in particular, the book of Acts, throughout its whole run, tells the story of how this little rabbinical movement in the backwaters of Jerusalem became an independent religion, distinct from Judaism, that makes its way all the way to the capital of the Roman Empire. In the beginning, the disciples were just that, followers of Jesus, followers of the rabbi, the prophet. They came to understand him as the Messiah, and as things went on, they saw themselves as followers of the way. Eventually, they're coined a new name by an outsider, referring to them as Christians, followers of the Anointed One. And as we all know, that name really stuck. Our snippet of the story today at Pentecost is the moment that it all launches forth into a new reality. Up to this point, it's been about following Jesus. It's been about learning from Him. It's been about trying out the things He's called His disciples to do. Now He's left them finally, and the Spirit has come to them as He promised, and it's time for them to pick up the ball and run with it on their own. Guided, of course, by the Spirit. And that's where our gospel story comes in, kind of the backstory. There's more for you to learn, but you can't take it now. But I'm sending you the Spirit who will teach you all things, who will lead you into the future, who will guide you into that new reality you can't even envision yet. And as the author tells the story throughout Acts, that's how it works. The Holy Spirit drives the movement. The Holy Spirit inspires the changes. The Holy Spirit moves them into that new reality. One of the big controversies they struggle with is, what do we do with these non-Jews who want to become Christians, who want to follow Jesus, who want to be part of the way? Do they have to become Jews first? He was the Messiah, after all. As you and I know, it finally played itself out that the answer was no. You don't have to embrace the Jewish faith and all of its traditions in order to be Christian. But it took them time to figure it out, and a lot of paying attention to the Holy Spirit, that breaking that tradition was what God wanted them to do. We also hear in this gospel passage, in the passage from Acts, a very poignant little remark. The description of how the disciples come out of the room overflowing with this experience of God's touch that the author could only describe in the vague terms of being like a rushing wind that came through the room and the feeling of fire. Inspired, they come out and find some place in the marketplace to launch into a message, a proclamation. And we hear that poignant note. All the foreigners heard them in their own native languages, apparently simultaneously. Now, I'm not one to try and explain away miracles, but I am one to look at that story and see also a symbolism for Christian efforts throughout the generations. Every era in which our faith has been spread to new parts of the world in the most successful manner has been an era where missionaries humbly learned the culture and language of the people and spoke to them in the language and idiom and symbols they understood, embracing everything from the new culture that was compatible with Christianity. and it's still true today. In our world, we live in a reality of the United States that in many ways is post-Christian, post-religious, secularized. For us to share the gospel today means we've got to use and master the vocabulary of the 21st century. And some of that is methodology as well as language. Back in the day of the apostles, standing up in the marketplace and saying, hey, I've got something to say to you guys, would gather a crowd. That's how news was shared. Today, it's web pages and Facebook and YouTube. And we're growing into that. And Mark has put great work into getting our website spruced up and up and running, and I thank you for that. Lots of people, Gretchen and Mark and others have been involved in the videotaping and moving into this new medium of communications. Clint has done wonderful things keeping Facebook going for us and just finding neat things to post and keep the message going. It's also, of course, about that very human level that we do instinctively, that simple word of mouth. Conversations happen. I'm new in town. Where's the Episcopal Church? I'm frustrated with my church. Where do you go to church? I haven't been to church in 25 years. I'm looking for a place to go. Well, come check out mine. Very simple, non-confrontational, loving invitations. That's how we let our light shine. That's how we share the blessings we receive with those who are seeking a relationship with God. It's not about polished speeches and rhetoric. It's about simple love, carrying it up for the neighbor to extend the invitation. All of this talk about the disciples preaching, though, I have to admit, does have me reminiscing. The very first time I delivered an honest-to-God, real sermon, I was scared to death. In the seminary, we had all kinds of public speaking training. We even videotaped each other and played the recordings back so that we could see and critique each other and learn from the experience. And honestly, that never made me nervous. To me, it was all about answering the call and polishing up the craft and being able to do the ministry well. But as a ministry intern, the first time I stood up in front of a real congregation, the reality hit home pretty hard. It wasn't practice anymore. People really did want to hear something, and it really was my job to have something worth listening to. And I could hardly get the words out. Now with the second and third and fourth sermons and so on and so forth, I got more and more comfortable with it, and to be perfectly honest, I love standing up here and shooting my mouth off. But telling the story of faith is something that naturally does make us nervous. And that's why I think it's important for us to remember that it's really not about having a polished speech. It's really not about trying to logically convince somebody that they need to come to my church. It's about the loving invitation, gentle, kind offering when the subject comes up. We don't even have to figure out how to bring the subject up. Just let it happen. It does. We are stewards of more than just this physical plant. We are caretakers of more than just finances and property. We are caretakers and stewards of the whole Christian mission that we see launched today in that reading from Acts. Living the faith, preserving the precious gift of spirituality and liturgy and sacrament and the depth of that relationship with God that all those things invite us into. And sharing the gift in gentle, kind invitations when the opportunity shows itself. All of that is the stewardship we're called to. All of that is the work we have been given to do. You'll remember in the last year plus, we've done some work about rearticulating and focusing our sense of what our mission is as a congregation, as a people of faith at St. Stephen's. I think it's good if I refresh our memories on that a little bit. We claim for ourselves that we were called to be a people who welcome and embrace everyone who's inspired to come and share the faith and worship and live the life with us. And that includes going out and doing good things for those who are in suffering and need around us. My brothers and sisters, today as we celebrate Pentecost, as we celebrate and refresh ourselves in the gift of the Holy Spirit, is also a perfect day to be rededicated to that mission, to doing the work God has given us to do in simple, humble, loving, kind gestures. Whether that is a package of food in the chaplain's footlocker, activity in the civic organization, or simply responding to a neighbor's question about where we go to church without being shy about it. Come and check us out at St. Stephen's. Come and see. My brothers and sisters, let us embrace the calling. Let us embrace our heritage. Let us not be shy about the rich and blessed gift we share here as people of St. Stephen's. Let us not hold it to ourselves, but be open and heart and mind